Hello, this is Ayan from Group 3, and I will be discussing the topic of computerized language testing and its future development. The discussion will cover the following subtopics: what is call, the three phases of call, the advantages and disadvantages, its current state, and opportunities for development. First, let us define what is computer-assisted language learning. Computer-assisted language learning, or CALL for short, is a term coined in mid-1900s to refer to any form of language learning and testing using personal computers as its medium through the help of a special software. Its main goal is to increase the communication or interaction between the learners and the teacher. The developers hoped that through the use of call, the quality of learning will be more effective and it would increase the mastery of the target language. Some of the examples of assessments that are translated into call are multiple choice, true, false, and matching items. Even fill in the blanks and close can be created using an authoring software. One of the best examples is the Plato system. Let us first backtrack on the history of call, and here are the three phases of call. The first stage of call is called behaviorist call. From the name itself, it is based on the behaviorist learning theory, where repetition is the key to learning. This was first developed in the 1950s, then was fully implemented by the 1960s. Since behaviorist call emphasizes repetition to learn a target language, drills and practice are the focus of instruction and assessments. The notion of the computer as tutor serves as the foundation for drill and practice software. To put it in another way, the computer transports educational content to the pupil, or it serves as the medium. The fact that call drills are still used today suggests that the theory behind drill and practice was not entirely absurd. In a nutshell, this justification is as follows. Repeated exposure to the same material is beneficial or even essential to learning. Second, a computer is ideal for carrying out repeated drills since the machine does not get bored with presenting the same materials and since it can provide immediate, non judgmental feedback. And lastly, a computer can present such material on an individualized basis, allowing the students to proceed at their own pace and freeing up class time for other activities. The Plato system is considered as one of the most sophisticated software that was developed for the behaviorist call. The Plato system has its own hardware that includes computers and terminals. This system includes vocabulary drills, brief grammar explanations and drills, and as well as translation tests at various intervals of difficulty. As we learn from the history of education, behaviorism as an approach to learning is not only rejected in the theoretical level but also in the pedagogical level. With this, it could not be helped for behavioristic call to also be put into scrutiny. This gave way to a new phase of call, which is the communicative call. This is based on the communicative approach to learning that was popularized in the 70s and the 80s. As one of the main advocates of communicative call, John Underwood in 1984 released a series of premises for communicative call. According to him, communicative call does the following: focuses more on using forms rather than on the forms themselves. Second, it teaches grammar implicitly rather than explicitly. Third, It allows and encourages the students to generate original utterances rather than just manipulated or prefabricated language. And fourth, it uses the target language exclusively and it creates an environment in which the student feels natural or authentic with the target language both on and off screen. Underwood also claims that through the use of communicative call, there is less judgment and evaluation on the part of the students since communicative call does not react to everything that the students do. Example, it does not give them reward or congratulatory messages, lights, or bells. Aside from that, it avoids telling the students that they are wrong and it is flexible to a variety of student responses. Overall, Underwood claims that communicative call will never try to do anything that a book can do just as well. Integrative Call is built on the Internet and multimedia computers. The inclusion of hypermedia and multimedia only increases its impact. This implies that all of the multimedia resources are connected and that students can find their own way around them. The following are cited as advantages of hypermedia. First is the creation of a more authentic learning environment since its listening is combined with seeing, just like in the real world. Second, since there are so many different media available, it is simple to mix reading, writing, speaking, and listening in one activity. Thirdly, students have a lot of control over their education because they can not only learn at their own pace but also follow their own unique path, moving forward and backward through the program, focusing on certain components while omitting others entirely. And finally, the ability to facilitate a primary emphasis on the information without compromising a secondary focus on language form or learning methodologies is another significant benefit of hypermedia. And not to mention the accessibility of the internet allowed the students to not only communicate those that are in their locality but also those that are overseas. With this, they are given the freedom to communicate with anyone at any time, anywhere. Moving on, let us discuss the advantages and disadvantages of computer language testing. Each of the categories are divided into two subgroups. For the advantages, it is divided between human considerations and testing considerations, while for disadvantages, it is divided into physical considerations and performance considerations. The advantages of using computers in language testing with connection to human considerations are the following. First, it is generally effective and convenient not only for the teachers but also for the students. Second, it is said that it minimizes any practice effects or studying for the test only and cheating, since computerized language testing tries to create an environment of authenticity or tries to give the students a more natural feel of using their target language. Another advantage of using computer in language test is that it is less overwhelming and less frustrating for the test takers compared to using pen and paper test. Lastly, many students like computers and even enjoy the testing process according to Stevenson and Gross. So this means that when they use computers in their test, they do not get bored and they are mostly inclined to finish and do well in their examination. Next on the list of advantages in connection with testing considerations, it is said that using computers produce a more accurate and faster scores, reports, and even evaluations of them using statistics. Supporting the previously mentioned advantage of using computers in testing, IRT or item response theory And computer adaptive testing allows testers to target the specific ability levels of individual students. This means that it is easier for the teachers to adjust a test or an examination based on the level of the students. Now, on the downside of using computer for language testing in connection with physical considerations, first main concern is the availability of the equipment and energy that is needed to power the said equipment, especially to those places or institutions that are less advantaged or let's say less blessed. Second is the screen capacity limitations and limitations on graphics. Although most of the computers today are more advanced and let's say high tech, there are still institutions that are using outdated computers. And lastly, another disadvantage of using computer for language testing in connection to performance consideration is one, the student's familiarity on how to operate the equipment. So some of the students may not be familiar on how to use the software or how to actually use the hardware itself. And there's also what they call computer anxiety. So some people get anxious or let's say uncomfortable when they are asked to use computers. So this may affect their performance. Currently, the following concerns with regards to the use of computer in language testing are already answered. First, how to use an item bank to create, pilot, analyze, store, manage, and select test items for purposes of making multiple test forms. In recent years, it is also a new trend to establish a large-scale language item bank to realize computerized adaptive test. So most of the large-scale standardized language tests with international influence have their own database. For example, the CET4 and CET6 in China have their established item bank. The second concern with the use of VALT is already addressed: how to create more imaginative computer-assisted language tests that take advantage of the new technologies. Teachers nowadays are more equipped in creating their examinations, just like some of the teachers would use YouTube videos or clips from popular movies or animes to capture the attention of the students while also delivering the target objectives of their lessons and their assessments. Third concern about VALT that is also answered is how to build computer adaptive tests that will first help us select and fit items to individual students' abilities. Second, help us know when to end the test when the student's ability level is found, and hence help us build computer adaptive tests that are relatively short in terms of number of items and time. The last concern about VALT that is also answered already is how effective computers are in language testing, including the advantages and disadvantages of it. One of the developments that is expected from language learning and testing is moving forward from using the term call to refer to inclusion of technology in language learning and testing to using the word TEL or technology enhanced language learning. Scholars say that this is a more appropriate term since we don't only use computers anymore, but we also utilize other equipment and as well as platforms to learn and teach language. Aside from that, scholars are looking into the near future of using augmented reality and virtual reality in language learning and teaching. As an example, MIT produced a prototype of augmented reality where the learners are given contextualized media reach, object to word, and word to object word learning experience in a physically augmented world by technology. Also, when it comes to VR, it is said that it will be helpful for learners of second language since not everyone has the capacity to visit and immerse themselves in a country where the target language is being used. So, with the use of virtual reality, it is like you were there without actually traveling to be there. Since everyone nowadays has an access to a mobile device, such as a smartphone or a tablet, scholars are also looking into developing mobile assisted language learning systems, or MAL. Aside from that, the use of AI, or artificial intelligence, is also said to be another possibility in the future development of language learning and testing. This is what they call intelligent call, or iCall. So these AI assistants can be used to engage learners in extensive language practice or even deliver customized instructions as they understand the emotion and needs for learners. But this is still in the early stage, so we might see this in 5 to 10 years. This is the end of my presentation. These are the works that I cited for this topic. Thank you. Have a good day.